Well, hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, part 6 and hopefully the finale of our ship in a bottle tutorial. Part 6. Who would have believed it? Who would have thought it? But hopefully you're enjoying it. Guys, I don't want to talk too much. We've got a lot of ground to cover here. So let's get right into this with getting that ship into our bottle. Well, we are pretty much ready to insert our boat, but before we can do that, that area that we left in the middle, that big area there with no ocean in it, we are going to place quite a bit of white silicone in that area, and that will serve a couple purposes. One of it will be to secure our ship in place, and the other will be to create the ship's wake. So we're just going to get in here with one of our spoons and apply quite a bit of white silicone right in the middle there. I mean, you can blend it out a bit if you like. I think the most difficult part of any of this is trying not to get silicone in the neck of the bottle. But as long as you clean it up while it's still nice and wet, then it shouldn't really cause you any problems. All right, so I'm going to get the rest of this boat wake, or our sealant to seal in our boat, placed into our bottle. I'm going to clean up that mess there that I've got in the neck of the bottle with the white silicone. And then, my friends, it is time to get this ship into our bottle. Well, the first thing that I'm going to do here is we're going to release all of our rigging so that we can manipulate our sails to fold down. Just like this. And we will fold everything down where it goes carefully. Just like that. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a pair of tweezers. I'm going to place them here on the bowsprit. And then I'm going to secure them in place with a little bit of masking tape. Now that we have that done, we can take the screws out of it and separate our ship from our working stand. Well, here goes the nerve-wracking part for me, and that is getting our ship into this bottle. They're very fragile. They can be very prone to breakage, so you really want to be careful here exactly how it is that you're doing this. So we're just going to get the first set of sails in there. Just like this. It's a little worrisome because this one here, I did measure it to be pretty tight in the bottle. I'm hoping that we're not going to end up being too tight in the bottle and not being able to get it in. That would be a disaster. So we'll just gently wiggle it in. Just a little bit of resistance there, quite a bit. but just take your time. The object is you want to get this thing in there and then get it sunk into that white silicone before it dries. You also want to be careful not to get any of the white silicone onto any of your rigging. Oh, we're so close. Awful lot of cracking and creaking going on here, which worries me. And I've just lost my tweezers. So we're going to lose the tweezers completely here. And then continue to wiggle this ship in. There we go. Thank goodness. Whew, I was worried there for a bit. Okay, so now I'm going to take my tweezers, get them on here, and we're going to take our boat right to the back. And we're going to position it in our boat wake. Now that angled piece that I made with the coat hanger, where I said I flattened it, that is what's going to help us maneuver this boat in place. All right, so I'm going to continue to shift this around and get it to where I like it. And then once you get it where you want it, use your little hook that I'm using here now and squish it down into that white silicone. Just like that. All right, that looks fantastic. And with the ship sitting in the white silicone or its wake, we just have to wait. I would give it at least 24 hours before you go near this at this point in time, because there's going to be some finagling and twisting and that sort of thing. I was having a hard time getting this in, and I've noticed that I've actually bent the hinges of the front mast, making it so that that mast is not going to be able to be risen. I'll have to get in there and fix that. That's all there is to it. And that's where those custom coat hanger tools come in, with that sharp hook. Hopefully I'll be able to grab a hold of that hinge and gently pull it back to get the mast raised up. So tape off your strings that are now hanging out of the neck of your bottle so that they're not falling down into the silicone. And now we wait. And hopefully tomorrow we'll have the sails all erected and this thing can sail in its bottle. Well, it's now time to raise our masts, and as I mentioned, it looks like, from what I could tell, I have damaged my hinges that hold this front mast. And yes, I can definitely see they are quite bent. So what I need to do is I really need to get in there and try to straighten those out. So I'm just going to use, I have a kind of a pick tool here, and I'm going to use a combination of the tools that I made and tools that I have in the shop, and we're going to try to force this hinge back without breaking it. It shouldn't be too difficult. My fear is damaging the hull at this point. This boat is well secured in here, and I don't want those wires to snap off, and I surely don't want to damage the hull or have something happen that way. So I'm just going to take my time. So we'll get this hinge straightened out, and then we're going to raise these sails up. So I think I have that straightened out now. So we're just going to pull up this one mast with our hook that we made very carefully. While you're straightening things, you want to be applying tension to your 3 lines out the front, and this will assist you in straightening out your masts and getting everything the way you want. So there we go. There is the masts upright. So I'm going to play around with this. We're going to get the tension on all of our strings that's out through the bowsprit. We're going to straighten out our back sail there. And once we get everything back in place the way that we want it, then we can tie off our strings at the front, secure them in place, and then I'll show you what to do next. Well, with the masts fully erected and we have repositioned our sails somewhat, I now have all of our rigging that comes out the neck of the bottle tied off here with an elastic band. We now need to get inside the model, and at every point where it passes through a dowel, so here at our spars at the bottom and at the top, as well as in the forward mast, spars top and bottom, we will also, where it passes through the main lines, and as well at the front bowsprit, we are going to glue all of the rigging together. So we're just going to reach in there with another one of these fabricated tools that we made from coat hangers with a little bit of CA glue, and we're going to glue each point where our rigging goes through so that it will be held in place, especially at the bowsprit. That is the most important one, to make sure that it's glued properly. So I'm going to do that, and once I get them all glued up, I'll see you when I'm done that. And now with all those lines all glued in place, we wait. Don't chance this. Let it sit overnight. Make sure that the CA glue has had a good chance to cure. And, well, I guess I'll see you tomorrow and we'll see how it goes from there. Well, I just want to quickly stop everything right here to give some important information of the process that you just saw. Normally, when you raise the masts and you glue in all of your rigging and that sort of thing and glue it to the bowsprit, Elmer's white glue is normally used for that procedure. Now, I wanted to speed things up, so what did I do? I went with a CA glue, and let me just tell you, don't do that. The reason is the fumes that come off of that glue inside the bottle, they end up, for some reason or other, they end up putting like a white haze around your bottle, and you will have to get in there and clean that up. And while it just readily wipes clean, it's quite the pain in the butt to do, trying to get around the ship and that sort of thing, depending on how tight your ship is in that bottle, and mine's pretty tight. So don't use CA glue to glue your riggings in the bottle, guys. You can do it outside the bottle while you're working on it. If you want to use CA glue, it's just fine, but it's the having it in the bottle with the fumes that cause the reaction. So Elmer's white glue to glue up your riggings after raising your masts, not CA glue. Well, here it is the next day. We're hoping that the CA is completely cured. I don't see why it wouldn't be. And what I've done is I've taken a small piece of, I think it's 3/16 dowel. I've used a scroll saw to cut a slot in it and inserted a blade into it. This will be to cut the strings or the rigging off our bowsprit. So the first thing that you want to do is release all your rigging and just ensure that everything is glued and is tight and nothing has let go. You want to make sure that it's all glued into place. Now what I'm going to do is take our little 90-degree tool that we made, and I'm just going to get in and ever so carefully, I'm just going to touch the wires or the rigging on the bowsprit. I'm going to release the rigging out the bottom, and I just want to touch each wire to make sure that it is in fact glued firmly in place. You also want to check the wires or the rigging that's up at each one of these spars and as well up at the top of the masts. Everything looks great. So the next step is just to get in there with your handmade knife here, and we're going to very carefully reach underneath and slice each one off as close to the bowsprit as we can. And there we go. That's all of our rigging now done. And with that, our ship is done. Now, just to ensure that everything was stuck perfectly, I did run another couple little dots of glue underneath the bowsprit just to make sure that we got it all sealed. So the last thing that I'm going to do here is I'm just taking a little bit of Gorilla Glue clear. You could use any type of clear glue that you want, CA glue, whatever you like. I'm just running it around the inside of the lip here of our bottle because just to finish it off, I'm going to glue in the cork. There we go. There's a thin layer of that adhesive there. And we'll just pop our cork in. Like that. And I'm just going to give it a little tap just to seat it in there. Well, you may think at this point that we are completed our project, but actually there's one more thing to do. Well, in order to display your masterpiece, you don't want these plywood pieces here. We want something a little nicer than that. You want to keep in mind that this is not the focus. The stand is not the focus of the project, so you want to keep it on a minimalist side. And for that reason, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. You want to measure on your bottle roughly where the neck is going to be to the end of the bottle. For me, it's approximately 7 inches here. And we're going to measure the size of our bottle, the diameter. And we're looking at about 5 inches. So 5 by 7 will be the size of our base. And our base is going to be made out of a chunk of walnut. This is 13/16 of an inch thick, 5 inches by 7 inches. And I'm just going to take it over to the router table and route a simple cove all the way around it just to give it some shape. From there, we can give it a good sanding, put it aside, and work on our supports for our bottle. Well, you now need to decide how far off of your base you want your bottle to sit. And for me, that measurement is 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to place a mark. I'm going to make a template for this. So I'm just going to place a mark at 1/2 inch up from the bottom. And I'm also going to place a bit of a center mark here. This is just for reference for the rest of the layout. Well, seeing that 1/2 inch mark there, I think I would like it a little taller. So I'm actually going to make it above the surface of our base by 3/4 of an inch. So the next thing we need to do is we need to determine the size of our bottle. Well, there's several ways that you can do this. You can measure it with calipers and then set a compass to draw that radius. You can guess at it if you like. You can trace around the bottle, or you can use a profile gauge like what I'm doing here. So this will give us the most accurate profile of our bottle. So what I've done is I've taken that profile, I've traced it down onto my template here, just off to the side. And then what I did was I mucked around with it until I got my compass set to the same radius as our test marking. So now with our compass set, we will place the point of our pencil on our center line right at that mark at 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom. I will place the pivot point in the center and I will draw the arc of our bottle. Well, this is where the simplicity of our design comes in. From our center line out to either side, I'm going to measure out 1 15/16. And from that mark, I'm going to place a 90-degree line, a square line, just up to our first drawn 1/2 inch line. And where that line intersects with our 1/2 inch line, we're going to draw a 45-degree line up to our radius of our bottle. And then I'm just going to take this over to the scroll saw and cut it out. And there is our template. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the same piece of walnut, that 13/16 thick piece. I'm going to trace out 2 of these brackets, cut them on the scroll saw, and then when I get that done, we can test fit our bottle. And with our 2 bracket pieces cut, we can just lay them in place on our base and test our bottle sitting on it. Now, the measurements here of these 2 points, these did not come by accident. I didn't want the edges of our bracket here to protrude past the water line because I didn't want to be able to look in through the bottle and see our brackets sticking up above the water. So that's something that you may want to keep in mind when designing your brackets. But that's basically the stand. I'm just going to sand it up, glue it together, making sure that these are glued on square to the base. I'm going to apply a finish, and that will be the completion of our project. I have been waiting 6 weeks to say this, and there you have it. A ship in a bottle. Oh my goodness, guys, what a load of fun this project is. This is, I'm just trying to rack my memory here, rack my brain, and honestly, I think this is the most satisfying project that I have done here on the show for a very long time. It was a 6-part series, but 6 parts that are well worth it. There is a ton of information in there, and check out the results. This thing is beautiful. I absolutely love it. Is my boat perfect? No. Are my sails perfect? No. Is my ocean perfect? No. Do I love the project? Am I proud of it? 100%, 110% yes. This is one of those projects that doesn't have to be perfect. It has to satisfy one person, and that's you. It doesn't require a lot of specialty tools, and those specialty tools that you need or that might assist you in your build, well, we were able to make those out of coat hangers. So really, other than the bottle, which you probably could have gotten in the recycling if you wanted, I really didn't put any money out on this project. I already used resins in my shop. I already had silicone in the shop. That's not true. I bought the blue oil paint. So a few dollars worth of a little jar of oil paint is pretty much what it cost me for this project, because I had pretty much everything else on hand. I honestly can't say enough about this project, guys, and I hope you're going to try it for yourself. There is more than one type of ship. Just because I did a schooner here doesn't mean that you have to do one. I intended this series to be a full, all-inclusive tutorial. Now, if there's something in these 6 parts that I missed, that you're confused about, or that you don't know how I did it, or you need a little more information, drop the comments below and I'd be more than happy to provide you with that information. But whatever you do, please do not deny yourself the joy of making one of these. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning into this series. What a blast it has been. This will not be my only ship in a bottle. I intend to make other ones. Whether or not I do them here for the show is another story. I will not be doing another 6-part series. But if there's a type of ship that you would like to see made, let me know in the comments below, and what I can do is make it for maybe a 1 or 2 part show, and I can reference the tutorial that we've done here for those who are not sure of some of the processes that we use during the build. So let me know down below what you want to see. If you haven't already, guys, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the bell so that you don't miss the notifications of future episodes of the show. I have been wanting to do this build for a very long time. It's been over 2 years in the thought process, and I'm more than happy to finally see it come together. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed the content. I hope you're going to try this for yourself. You really have to. And more importantly, I honestly hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesdays.